Good evening. Welcome to the first meeting of 2020. Let me review the agenda of our January 16th, 2020 meeting. So thank you for coming. And we have a quorum this evening. The first two agenda items have requested adjournment. Then we go back to a discussion on Lighthouse Landing communities that happened a while ago. This is the Phase 3 preliminary subdivision and roads and infrastructure site plan. And then the last agenda item of the floating zones, the planning board had a work session on Monday and had that discussion just now in our work session, so we can then move to approval of minutes and have a very truncated agenda this evening. So with that, the first agenda item, Landrock LLC. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll move.
Matt,
Seconded.
thank you. Seconded by Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Aye. Landrock has requested an adjournment until the February meeting, and the date of the February meeting is February 20th. So we will adjourn until February 20th and reconvene the discussion on Landrock LLC until then. So do I get a motion? Do I close it?
No, ma'am, you
Adjourn.
get a motion to adjourn it
Motion to
until
adjourn
the
it.
20th.
Right.
Motion to adjourn the Land Rock item.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The Reformed Church of the Tarrytowns was going to be a presentation of their preliminary subdivision plat and site plan approval. They have likewise requested an adjournment, so we will move now to Lighthouse Landing Communities LLC.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Happy New Year. Stay that for another couple of weeks, I think. Andrew Tung on behalf of Lighthouse Landing Communities, here with Craig Tompkins. This evening we've returned to talk about Phase 3 infrastructure. We last appeared before you to speak about that, I think it was in June. And then we took a brief hiatus, during which time we met with village staff a number of times, and also more recently with the Board of Trustees to discuss two items, actually three items, that we had proposed as minor changes, in our view, from the approved RDCP, Riverfront Development Concept Plan. This diagram shows the area under consideration for the Phase 3 infrastructure. It's the area in purple. It's basically the streets, sidewalks, everything within the right-of-way, including above and below ground utilities that will complete the roadway infrastructure for Edge on Hudson. Phase 2 being in the center of the site, Phase 1 rather, Phase 2 being here, and Phase 3, the Phase 3 roadways will complete the loops of the various utility systems. It will also create six project lots, and it will actually create the open space lot with the boundaries that will be part of the subdivision for Phase 3. So it sets the groundwork, it completes the utility systems that were created or begun in Phase 1 and will be continued in Phase 2. The two elements that we went back to the Board of Trustees to discuss, one was the removal of the median from Palisades Boulevard in coordination and similar to the removal of the median at Horseman's and Legends, and also a change to the length of the center island in front of the hotel, and the exchange or the movement of that open space, which is in the middle of the traffic island, is more visual than participatory, to adjoin the open space right up against the waterfront open space, so that can be more pedestrian oriented rather than in the middle of the traffic circle. We last appeared, Peter Chafkin last appeared, and Greg at this December meeting of the trustees, and I believe came to agreement with the trustees, or the trustees decided that both of those two proposals were consistent with the Riverfront Development Concept Plan. The third item, which was here, we have not applied in this application for what was called, or what will be called Sleepers Haven, an additional connecting road dividing this block, or those two blocks. And the reason that we haven't applied is that we wanted to wait. One, there are no connecting utilities within that street, and we wanted to wait until the design of these two blocks were finalized in the event that that street wants to shift over 10 feet in one way or the other because of the layout of those two plans. So we understand that there has been communication between the board and Board of Trustees and the Planning Board as to their deliberations and decision. And if that is so, then we'd like to move forward with further consideration of the subdivision and the site plan by your board tonight and going forward.
Any comments?
I have a quick question. So regarding the center islands on the streets, would you mind, did we retain any of those, I guess, in the end? If you wouldn't mind pointing out, I'm just curious.
No, there in the original RDCP, there was a Center Island and Legend Drive on Horseman's for the last two blocks and Palisades for the last two blocks. And that was removed as part of phase one. This was removed as part of phase two. And now we're proposing to remove this as part of phase three, primarily for to respond to a later development in the fire code, which required a wider roadway in which to both drive trucks and, more importantly, perhaps provide outriggers for ladder trucks. With the center median, you would have to provide that on both sides rather than just one side. And that seemed to take up a lot of room that was not needed in roadway.
Okay. No, thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, after the, you said June meeting, I think Peter went back and actually did some traffic study and parking study of the remaining median. And then we did refer it back to the Board of Trustees, even though I think the phase one and phase two decisions to remove the center median was made by the previous planning board. But it seemed to make sense to refer it back to the trustees so that they were kind of brought up to speed on the current current view of the development. So I think the time taken was worth bringing everyone along and getting on the same page.
Just a clarification regarding the street that we were just discussing. Is its current right-of-way then reduced from how it would have been in the other design concept that did have a meridian?
I believe it was reduced about 6 feet. I think it went from 90 to 84. But the open space that was in the median, the planted area, was moved to the outside, so it becomes part of the pedestrian way.
So is the building-to-building facade distance the same?
No, the building to building is similar The buildings are actually set back from the right-of-way line.
Correct, I guess, to word it differently, is the buildable area or the square footage that would become building the same or increased?
I believe it's the same. The building-to-building distance is the same. There was no, what happens inside, there was no restriction on square footage. It was more a restriction on units.
And I believe, Kristen, is one of the design considerations that the applicant presented to the village board is that open space, I think as Andy indicated, the open space that was part of the median has now been moved to the sides and actually becomes part of the open space or the landscaping that's associated with those building blocks. And essentially, the maintenance for that
It'll be private.
becomes the responsibility of those building blocks and not necessarily the village.
Right. Excellent.
Thank you.
And especially for that block, removing the trees in the median actually opens up a better view of the river and makes it consistent with the prior two phases, since all the medians have been eliminated at this point. Okay.
I just have a quick follow-up. Andy, you had mentioned open space, and that as part of this phase, you will be creating the open space lot. Can you speak to where the applicant is, Edge on Hudson, with respect to the open space design, and when the village can expect to see something that they can comment on or incorporate as part of the, because eventually the planning board's going to have to approve a site plan for the open
Yeah.
space.
I believe that the Open Space Committee has been working together with the applicants, with Nelson Bird Waltz, the landscape architect. And it's my understanding Peter Chafkin could not be here tonight. He's actually, he had a procedure on his Achilles tendon, so he's laid up for a couple of weeks. But he was arranging for a work session, I believe, to be held with representatives of the planning board, the village board, and the open space committee in the near future to bring everybody up to speed.
Okay.
So I don't have anything tonight to.
Okay, and as part of a conference call earlier today, although Mr. McCarthy, the younger, couldn't be here tonight, there were some concerns about this phase and whether the kind of the filling and the designs leaks into or spreads out into the open space, and so that's why we're raising this issue now, to make sure that there's complete coordination between what you're proposing and what's happening with the open space. So we're moving in concert as much as possible.
What we'll be showing, or what we have shown on the plans that have been submitted and will be updated, are merely the street trees. And in particular, we will also show an initial design for the hotel plaza. But we will not show the design of this space, nor of the last piece of Central Park. Because we think both of those would benefit from consideration of both sides of the street at the same time, both here and here, where that open spaces have been moved out of the center island into the adjacent area.
Okay, and with respect to the to traffic circulation, you've condensed that the plaza area adjacent to the hotel. Do you have any preliminary plans at this point as to how that relates to the design of a proposed hotel as far as access? And that was one of the other considerations that came up this afternoon.
Yeah, the only thing I think that we've determined on a preliminary basis is that the entry to the hotel would be at the center of the island. So we would have a place, an address at that island, and that the entry to the garage would be off of Palisades. So you wouldn't have people driving into the hotel parking lot from the same place where the drop-off was. So there's a formal entrance that faces that plaza.
The plaza, okay. Do you have like a porte cochere or something like that for check-in?
We most likely will. We'll have that up to the curb. We really don't know that until the hotel comes in. But the idea is to make that the front door.
So what's the target timing to have the roads and all this infrastructure in place so that people can start to access the river's edge?
Good evening. Craig Tompkins with Edge on Hudson. We really hope 2020, in the event that this board saw fit to approve the planning of what was now called Phase 3, used to be 3-4, we would go ahead with the construction of 3-4 this year. It would be, we're looking at a 9-month, 12-month construction time. We probably wouldn't make this year for paving and curbs. We'd have to hit next year for the paving and curbs. So Phase 3-4, over the course of the next, say, June to June, we are prepared to do that. We've received preliminary bids. In addition to that, as you may be aware, we recently did receive some funding from New York State, much like the village, in an effort to coordinate the construction of the river, the waterfront, over that same period of time. As Andy had said, Peter's working to get a presentation before the boards, I think the first week in February. If we're able to get that at that initial presentation meeting, then bring that to you with a recommendation of the Waterfront Committee, that would once again start a sort of a separate process that we would work through your board through the course of the spring, early summer, and we were prepared to start that work immediately over the course of 2020 into 21. I'm actually saying 2021, but that's where we are. So we really hope to continue it. Obviously, Block F, Heinz Development is moving along. We hope to follow that soon with Block H. And then as Peter works with, negotiates for future buyers for K, Q, and M, those will soon follow. But our hope is to have the infrastructure in, get people who live here access to the waterfront that we would like to build this year into next year.
Okay, thanks, Craig. Okay. All right.
We would request, if appropriate, that you consider setting a public hearing for February.
Sounds good to me.
We did receive a comment memo from Woodard and Curran back in July. We are preparing a supplemental and another set of drawings to respond to those comments, and we expect to have that to you by the first week in July, first week in February, in time for the next meeting.
All right, terrific. We'll see you on February 20th then.
Thank
So
you.
I move to set a public hearing for February 20th's meeting for the Phase 3 infrastructure.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
See
you.
you February 20th.
If you don't mind, I was just hoping to give you guys, answer any questions you may have, but also share. The good news is we're working with Sean, if he was here, towards our first CO. So we're really hoping by the end of January to have our first person moved in.
Excellent.
So it's somewhat of a milestone that many of you have been around for. But first person moved in hopefully by the end of January. Models open up early February, and then we hope to continue, just roll those in. Heinz Development, as I said, is really working with Sean towards some design documents, Con Edison. We're excited about that. The I buildings, which are the apartments I heard you talking about earlier, are coming out of the ground. We have the foundations in for I-2 now, followed by I-1 and then I-3. Townhouses are, I think we're probably on about 5, 10, maybe 25 have started. They've sold about 18 of them, so they're excited about that, and they're hoping the introduction of the models will spike a little interest with the good weather in the spring and really get those going as well. If you've been out there, you've seen concrete block stair towers start to rise out of E1. So those have started, as well as the ground floor foundations and framing for E1. So the activity is booming out there right now. Some great weather we're experiencing now. So we're really excited what 2020 will be, and we're looking forward to it. If anyone hasn't already, we did produce a 3D model of the project that's available at the website. If you don't mind, have an opportunity to go there at johnhudson.com. There is a link there, but take a look at the video because it's the first time we've really taken the opportunity to see what this place will be. When we're done, it takes these two-dimensional drawings that Andy has put together and just puts them all together with the architecture that we're sort of looking at. So I encourage you to take a look at that and really start to see what this place will be in the end.
It's very impressive.
So any questions anyone has, you know I'm always available, and we're excited about 2020.
It looks great. I saw that video. It looks very nice.
Yeah, it was the first time, and it really highlights, I know the trees are very mature, but it highlights what it can be.
Right.
You know, this infancy stage, it'll start, but it'll be something really spectacular once we get going.
What's your estimate at this point in time for the final completion of the overall project, all 3 phases?
You know, it's difficult. Obviously, we love the market right now. It's very exciting when it comes to people looking to purchase these. With the completion of this, once again, the grocer is another really anchor that we're hoping to have some good news about this year. That'll start the retail. They want to start to be in there upon the completion of F Block as people start to be there. That'll extend into 2022. We're probably 4 to 5 years, but it's going to be a continuous process, and people are going to be just moving in, moving in, moving in, moving in. So it's we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, I would assume that getting Phase 3 and the waterfront open space developed fully in 2021 will certainly.
Yeah, we want to give the people who live there, we want to give them some place to go, some way to get to the waterfront. We're excited about that. I guess you saw over the end of last year, we did complete Beekman Avenue, which we were excited about. Con Ed came in and paved all that. The street lights are going up. There are temporary lights at the bridge right now. Temporary lights. If anyone had a question, those are not permanent. But we're working with Con Ed to get those energized and finish up the bridge as well. So that corridor, it's just nice to have Beekman Avenue open, paved, sidewalks done. It was exciting to get that done.
And what drove the temporary lights versus the permanent?
We're coordinating with Con Ed. Our light fixtures were sort of tied to an order with Beekman Avenue, and they're just expected in the second week of February right now. So it's
Imminent?
right here.
Okay.
How is Peter coming along with his efforts to woo institutional investors for K, M, and Q?
Right now, we're in negotiations for H. Is the next one we're looking to sell. This is the condominiums, 96 condos on the water. There's been interest in the others. I can't speak specifically to them, but he's excited about going here to the ones on here. Originally, remember, Phase 3 was intended to be the townhomes, but with Toll Townhomes extending in for probably another 2 years, the market might be a little more receptive to additional apartments and condos here on K and M. So we'd like to see where those can take us, and we'd obviously be back to this board. Once again, this is for infrastructure only. We come back to this very board who decided on Phase 2, the building architecture there. We would look to come back to you once we have whatever the next block may be. So any other questions? Happy to answer them, but we're excited.
Not a question so much, but just a comment, talking about the timing of this work, your Phase 3 work, and the open space. Just make sure that your stagings, the people talk to one another, because we don't want the open space work to impact your work and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they come together, this meeting, we're hoping to have in the first part of February. We'll really bring this together, and then we hope that they can take off together at that point, before the board and get that comment period going. But yeah, that should happen over the course of the spring into the summer of this year.
Craig, sorry, quick question, slight diversion of topic, but would you mind showing us, while this is up there, where the bridge over the Metro North tracks may come in from, Continental? Is that still,
Yeah, so what happened many years ago, Andy was part of it, the board at the time had a premonition of that, and what they did is they actually provided an easement. There's an easement through here, and remember, that'll be up in the air, so
Yeah.
it'll actually be over this parking lot,
okay,
and then it'll turn and then come into the
into
circle.
the circle, okay.
So that is something that's in place. I know the LDC and the village are working towards that, but accommodations have been made to accept that.
Got it.
Yeah, there was an
Thank you.
easement included as part of the Riverfront Development Concept Plan that allowed for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I know they continue their efforts, but we're ready for them.
Okay,
So
thank
if
you.
nothing else, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion required on the floating zone, or we're good?
No,
Okay.
wait, so if, Aaron, you were to send a link, person you sent stuff, and if, is it Lindsay, or was there anything else? I don't
There
think
wasn't
so.
any, I hadn't touched base with Lindsay, actually, so,
Then, yeah, I mean, I'll consolidate it in and send it off, probably tomorrow to you guys again.
okay,
So,
great, thank you, Tom.
Madam Chair, do you know when you may transmit comments to the village board?
It'll happen next week, for sure,
Okay.
yeah.
Rochelle, do you remember, there was a public hearing on the floating zone on Tuesday, was that continued until next week?
Yes.
It's Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, we should get it, we should get it to them by probably Monday.
Monday's a holiday. I'm just telling you.
I think Rochelle's still working.
yeah.
Well, it'll be in their inbox Tuesday morning then.
Right.
Okay, approval of minutes going back to October. October 17th, 2019. Any comments? Okay, can I get a motion to,
I believe I had one comment.
okay?
I don't have anything to otherwise.
It's on page 5. The third line down.
Can you give it to me? Can you give her a copy? Can you have another copy?
Yes, ma'am, I certainly can.
You can just read it and see if the board approves the change.
Pardon?
You can read it to the board and see if they approve
Oh.
whatever the changes.
I hope they do. In the third line down, it says, company that build the aqueduct. I think it should be built the aqueduct.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, so can I get a motion to approve as amended?
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Any comments on the November 21st, 2019 minutes? Clinton?
Yes, ma'am. On pages 5 and 6, this was something that I was unsure about. You say Westchester County Geographic Information Systems, GIS, indicates Dell Street as a true street, and their documentation states that Dell Street is part of one contiguous property.
Are you quoting Trevor Spearman? Is that Trevor Spearman saying that?
Yes, yes,
I can review the tape, but he's
Okay.
probably quoted what he said.
okay. And then on page 6, quoting Sean McCarthy, said that heavy storms affect the Hudson River tide and the outflow of the Pocantico River gets jammed up, and can't without an apostrophe. I think it should be cannot. That's it?
Okay.
I would move to approve those November minutes as amended then.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And the December 19th, 2019 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, on page 3. At the end of the first paragraph, Mr. Smith stated that the request is for a site plan condition to be added to the approval to allow additional truck trips. If you could just check that.
I could check it, but I know this one's fresh in my head, and that's what David said.
And then
Recheck it.
thank you. On page 7, the last entry under Form .01 says Chairman Shu referred to the application to the Zoning Board of Appeals and set a planning board hearing for January 16, 2020. But I don't think that was the final action, was it?
It was, but they could not meet those deadlines. It was too late for them to meet the zoning board deadline. So that, we did set, she did refer them, on that date, but it couldn't happen.
Okay. Was there a vote on the motion?
Yes, I believe. It just, rather they didn't know that we made a motion, she referred, it was a referral.
It says and set a planning board public hearing.
Yeah, I think we referred them to the zoning board with an expectation that they would be able to do that in time to come for a public hearing today, but that didn't work out.
But if there was going to be a public hearing today, we would have had to vote. We should have voted at this meeting to set the public hearing for today.
Should we be
We-
setting that for February?
There wasn't a vote.
There wasn't a vote to,
Okay.
I guess, adjourn it till February 20th.
I
I
think,
don't think there was a motion to set the public hearing, that's what he's saying.
Should
pardon
we-
me?
You're saying you don't believe there was a motion voted to
Yes,
set the public hearing.
exactly.
For today, but I wonder if they have an expectation that there's gonna be one in February, I wonder if we need to move it now.
Public notices are being reviewed as tomorrow. They're drafted and ready to go.
Yeah, I
For
guess,
that group.
Yes, you're also going to get documentation that you'll see a different name on the next agenda, because they changed their name.
okay,
34 on Hudson, LLC.
okay,
I'll send you a letter and a property deed and to show them all.
yeah. I don't remember, but I'm assuming we would have moved to have the public hearing
I can
for
check-
today.
Okay.
Unless
and-
I
and
messed
if-
up again.
If it was not an actual motion to vote, maybe instead of and set, if we amend it to say in anticipation of a planning board public hearing date for January 16.
Do you recall the tape?
I probably just wrote it as, yeah, as
And then finally on that page, 3 lines from the bottom, you have 2 periods. At the end of dedicated bus stop,
I know I don't. Within 100,000 linear feet from the dedicated bus stop,
yep,
I have one period, but
okay.
printer added something.
And then finally, on page 9, in the center of the page, Mayor Kenray stated that an important note to remember in the boards, there should be an apostrophe. B-O-R-D apostrophe S.
So your decision, I could review the tape and see if there was a vote, which I don't believe on Form 01 LLC. Or
I'm
we
sorry,
can- I could review the tape and we could hold these off, or you can approve them and I could listen again to make sure there's no motion for the public hearing for 34 Hudson Street. It was,
yeah, I don't
Otherwise, we'll
remember.
leave it as
Does
is.
anyone remember?
I don't remember. I was here, but I don't remember
I'll listen
either.
to the-
Um, But if we didn't formally move and vote
We should do that
for
now, no?
today, that means if they show up in February, we technically haven't allowed it either.
I think we should at least
If they
vote on it
show up,
now.
Yeah.
if we did move and vote and they show up in February, we haven't allowed it
Right,
because we're not adjourning it tonight.
right. So there's no harm if we just go ahead and move and vote again to do it for February, right?
In anticipation of.
It's,
Well, it sounds like the application's in. Are
Well, as Sean, after the
Yeah.
meeting, realized it was too late
they- Yeah,
for them to submit to the zoning, it was past the deadline.
yeah.
And the zoning approval really is important to happen the day before in order to approve it as planning board. We need zoning board approval first.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
we could set a
So there's still a
public, a tentative
contingency.
public hearing pending approval at the
That's
zoning.
what we're planning on, they're planning on coming February 20th.
And then if the zoning doesn't pass, then we would just adjourn it and push it out to March.
Right, then you guys can figure that out.
I have no issues with.
Sounds sensible.
Huh?
Sounds like a sensible solution.
I'm happy to
So if you'd like to make a
move.
motion to set, I'll give you their new name. You could,
Okay, so it's 34 on Hudson?
34 on Hudson LLC.
Okay. Can
Well, I'll
I,
take a stab at it then. I move to set the public hearing for 34 on Hudson for the February 20th meeting in anticipation of them being ready
And approved by the zoning.
and approved by the zoning board. Sure.
I second that motion.
all in favor?
one question, I mean, they're not here.
Yes, we noticed.
Because they came back to me the next day and thought they were going, and Sean and I said, wait, it was a mistake, you can't come in January.
Okay.
There.
But I guess the fact that Sean said there was a mistake, and he's not here either. I mean, merely because it's a mistake, I just feel somewhat uncomfortable trying to remedy the mistake when,
Nobody's here.
yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the mistake was or what's being done to remedy it.
So what is your suggestion?
My suggestion would be just to have them come on the 14th,
The 20th?
the 20th, excuse me, and set a public hearing then,
For the March meeting,
for the
probably.
March meeting, yes.
I don't see any risk on my end, or I'd say, in my opinion, I feel like what's been communicated to us today, in good faith, I think what we were about to approve, I feel in support of, but
Well, knowing that their intention in December was to get to a public hearing as soon as possible, and the calendar just didn't work in their favor to make that feasible, what is the procedural concern or risk with us moving them to February 20th, even in their absence?
First of all, it's unclear to me from these minutes that they were ever set for tonight, so that if they weren't set for tonight, we can't move them. If they weren't set, then your question is what's the risk of tentatively setting them for the 20th of February? And there may be none at all, but again, we don't know we don't know where they are. I don't know where they are, you know?
They were all set to come to January. It was just that they missed the zoning board deadline to get the notice and the mailings out 20 days before the public hearing. So they were ready to go, They just, it was, the time constraint would not allow them to come to the, it wasn't about this board, it was more about getting to the zoning board on time. They're very anxious and very prepared.
As I
Come
recall,
to the meetings in February.
yeah, they were hoping to get to the zoning board and then come the next night
They're-
to this board.
Yeah, I mean, they were upset that they couldn't come January.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that you all would have made the motion to open the public hearing for today.
If it had been on the agenda, I assure you, I would have said that you should.
Yeah, I mean, I recall the conversation that they were, so I would guess that procedurally, you would have held me and the board to the proper motion.
Precisely what we did with Landrock tonight, open it and then adjourn it.
Right, right.
So if you want to go ahead and set it tonight, I mean, it is not an issue about which I would throw myself in front of a moving bus.
Okay, I think that makes all of us. So we have a motion from Thomas and the second from
Second.
Ed. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And if someone has to go to planning board jail, I guess that'll be me.
So back to.
December
minutes,
minutes.
though, yeah.
Are
I guess-
we adjourning it till, tabling it till next month? And I can check the tape again? Or one of you has?
I would be comfortable with approving as amended.
As check the tape and amend as necessary.
Yeah,
I second.
I guess I was the first. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And can I get a motion to close our meeting?
So moved.
Second
Second.
by Matt. All in favor of
Aye.
closing the
David,
meeting?
what happens to the tax value